Today we're going to take a look at sentence fluency and how to recognize or identify what you're doing as a writer. You're going to need these two texts. There's a chart that you're going to need as well as the varied sentence length passage that has a bunch of different examples on here of sentence lengths. And what we're going to do first is practice using this sentence fluency chart with the text that's provided here. Then you will use this sentence fluency chart again and go into your piece of writing and kind of look for different trends that you're noticing. So the way that this works, and many of you have used one of these before, is this only goes to 10 because whatever you're doing in the first 10 sentences or so is probably what you're doing throughout your piece. So if you notice that you have all periods in the first 10 sentences, you likely have periods throughout. If you notice that your first, 2 of your 10 sentences are run-ons, you likely have run-ons throughout. It's not an always thing, but it is enough to get a snapshot. The teachers can also help you look at this information and determine trends and kind of where things we can work on. So the way that this works is you see that it says the first 2 words, the ending punctuation, total number of and, buts, and ors. And the reason this is on here is because I want you to pay attention to these 3 conjunctions because oftentimes we use these multiple times in a sentence that is actually a run-on. So if you know you have 4 ands in a sentence, it's probably a run-on. The total number of words which we're going to look at, and then this column is separate. So we're going to look at 2 different texts. So for this purpose, we're going to look at 5 sentences of one text and 5 sentences of another text. Okay, so go ahead and draw a line on here. And we're going to go ahead and do these. The first one that we're going to look at, which we'll look at these also, but we're going to look at those for a different purpose, is I want for you to look down at the third one that's from Joey Pigs That Swallowed the Key by Jack Gantos. Okay, the first 2 words of this sentence, so if you find where the camera's a little foggy. Maybe, there we go. So if you look at the first 2 sentences of this, you see that it's I nodded, and then I'm going to go find a period. Okay, and there's only 1 period in this whole thing. So automatically as a reader, when something is this many lines, I'm probably thinking this is going to be a run-on. So we might be able to do a third text, yay! So the first 2 words were I nodded. Okay, and in this particular lesson, it doesn't necessarily matter what the sentence says. We're looking at the trends that we can see from the sentence fluency. The ending punctuation is a period. And the total numbers of ands, buts, or ors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 and, buts, or ors. So right away as a teacher, this is flagged for me simply because of the fact that there's 12. And I could probably write a pretty good sentence with maybe 5. And so I'm guessing that if you have 2, you might want to get it checked. All right, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm counting the total number of words. 1, I was taking a long time counting, so I went ahead and counted. And there are 97 words in that sentence. And if you're like, I got 96 or I got 100, that's all fine, as long as we're within a couple of words, especially in one this long. So right away, we know this is a run-on. And we're going to talk about Ganto's intent with this and why he chose such a long sentence in this particular case, because there are intentional times. This is not a sentence that was created for this. This is a sentence that is actually in a text. So the next text we're going to take a look at and do the same process with here is, let's see, let's come down to this one down here from the testing by Joelle Charbonneau. And I'm going to start my process again. So here's sentence number 1, ending punctuation, ending punctuation, ending punctuation. Okay, so I'm only going to do 5. And then let's look for a trend. So let's see, and I'm going to go to number 6 here. The first 2 sentences are 2 minutes. Ending punctuation is a period. There is 0 and, buts, and ors, and there are 5 words in that sentence. The next one is I take. The ending punctuation is a period. There are 1 and buts or ors. 1, 2, 3, 14 words. The next one is 1 minute. Ends in a period. No and buts ors and only 2 words. The next one says after pudding. Ends with a period. Oh no, I got the wrong one. I skipped, I realized. We're just gonna have to skip that one. Whoops. And buts and ors, 0. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 18 words in that sentence. Okay, I'll go ahead and do the I realize here. It ends in a period as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 words and 0 and buts or ors. Okay, so what you are going to do, as you can see with this text here, is what we're looking at are a couple of different things. The first thing I'm looking at are these first 2 words. The reason that we look at these is to look for repetition. If every sentence you have start with when, or so, or then, or I, you are going to want to make some revisions. And there's some strategies for this in your resource notebook that I will show you. The other thing that you are looking at is this ending punctuation here. Now, in this particular case, in this particular scene, the periods are working just fine, but every once in a while, you want to throw in a question or an exclamation point. Or sometimes you may notice that you have 8 exclamation points out of 10, and that's simply too many. You probably don't need more than 1 or 2 in this entire thing unless there's something going on that warrants that. The other thing that you're looking at as a writer is the number of and, buts, or ors. Having 0, 1, maybe 2 isn't necessarily a red flag. But if you start having 3, 4, 5 ands in a sentence, I would be willing to bet that it's a run-on sentence. And if you are known for run-ons, like you do run-ons, and you have even 2, I would bring it to an adult or find someone around you who is pretty good at grammar. There's lots of kids in here who can do that. And have them take a look at just that sentence to see if it is a run-on. The other thing that you're looking for is this sentence variation here. We're going to talk about the impact different lengths of sentences have, but if you notice that all of your sentences are approximately 5 words, 2 words, 8 words, and they're all fairly short, you are going to want some variation. So looking at a range of about 3 or so words, that would be considered the same. So if you're like, well, they're not the same because this one's 7 and this one's 10 and this one's 9 and this one's 8, they're all kind of the same length. So take into account that if those numbers are fairly close to each other consistently, you may want to do some rearranging. And again, we'll talk about the lengths of sentences and what they do in a minute.